The distress signal pulsed across the void, desperate, frantic alien. Entire empires hesitated. Entire armadas calculated the cost. Only one fleet moved without hesitation. And the galaxy would soon regret that the first to answer were humans. The distress call screamed across the void. Not in words, not in languages, but in the universal rhythm of desperation. One pulse, short, frantic. Two pulses, longer, ragged. Then a flare of raw data, help, under siege, collapsing. The beacon leapt from relay to relay, crossing the galactic lanes faster than thought. It reached thrones and senates, war councils and pirate dens. Across the stars, leaders listened. And hesitated. Too far, one admiral scoffed. Not our concern, muttered a chancellor. The risk outweighs the benefit, whispered a council of merchants. Help meant loss. Loss meant weakness. And weakness, in the great galactic game, was fatal. So the galaxy paused. Debated. Waited. But only for a moment. Because one fleet did not debate. It did not calculate profit margins or political backlash. It moved. And that, historians would later agree, was the moment the galaxy's fate tilted. The first to answer were humans. The captain? Captain Elias Ward sat at his command chair as though this were a lazy Sunday on Earth. One leg crossed over the other, mug of coffee steaming beside the console, posture loose. His eyes, however, tracked every flicker of data on the holodisplays. Confirm beacon origin, he said, voice calm, almost casual. System J947, sir. Frontier colony, not officially charted on most maps, replied Lieutenant Rains. Her tone carried the faint disbelief of someone who couldn't quite accept that humanity had answered before anyone else. Ward gave a small smile. Uncharted means unclaimed. Unclaimed means messy neighbors. I've yet to meet a neighbor who doesn't get twitchy when someone cries for help. He tapped the edge of his mug thoughtfully. It had Earth's old NASA logo faded on the side, the kind of relic that meant little to most aliens but carried a quiet weight for humans. Fleet status? All ships aligned, drives green. Weapons on standby. Ward nodded, still relaxed. His crew knew the signs. When the captain's posture looked most careless, his mind was at its sharpest. Alien eyes. The arrival of the human fleet did not go unnoticed. Orbiting the distressed world were a patchwork of alien vessels, relief ships waiting for orders that never came, scavengers ready to pick apart a corpse, and distant warships, monitoring the situation with suspicion. The first transmission hit the humans as soon as they emerged from slip space. This is Commander Thrax of the Varick Consortium. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. This system is under protective observation. Ward sipped his coffee before responding. Captain Elias Ward, United Terran Fleet. We're here because someone asked for help. Standard humanitarian protocol. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Humans? Deathworlders? You are ill-suited for diplomacy and rescue. Leave before you complicate matters. Ward tilted his head. Ill-suited? Well, that's one way to say it. Personally, I'd go with adaptable under pressure. Sounds friendlier, don't you think? Rains hid a grin. The crew had seen this routine before. Ward's politeness had edges sharper than blades. The planet below. The colony flickered weakly on sensors. Once a thriving settlement of mixed species, it was now scarred and burning. Energy readings suggested bombardments. Scattered life signs clung to broken cities. They're circling like vultures, Rains muttered, eyeing alien fleets in orbit. Not vultures, Ward corrected gently. Hyenas. Vultures wait until the kill is clean. Hyenas rush in early, test the edges, laugh while they bite. The lieutenant gave him a sideways look. And us, sir? Ward set his mug down. The steam curled upward like battlefield smoke. A wolf doesn't explain itself to hyenas. Banter and needles. Another transmission came through, this time from the Sirala Collective, a species known for their bureaucratic arrogance. Human fleet, you are advised to hold position. Aid distribution requires delicate coordination, which you lack. Your involvement may escalate hostilities. Ward leaned back, tones smooth as silk. Coordination. Yes. We're famously terrible at that. Only took us, a century to go from biplanes to moon landings. Another to spread across half the local sector? Absolute chaos. The alien envoy hesitated, unsure whether to treat this as sarcasm or fact. Ward's smile never wavered. We'll still be dropping supplies and pulling survivors. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to explain to the refugees why we stood by while you held committee meetings. The comm channel went silent. First steps. Dropships detached from human carriers, sleek and armored. They cut through orbital clutter and atmosphere like blades. Alien observers expected chaos, confusion, hesitation. Instead, they saw terrifying precision. Teams moved as though rehearsed for this exact disaster. Relief stations unfolded in minutes. Drones stabilized collapsed structures. Marines carried civilians with gentle efficiency. Even the jokes carried weight. One sergeant muttered as he hauled debris. Feels like Monday morning traffic in Houston. None of the aliens understood, but the tone carried a bizarre levity. Ward watched from orbit, eyes narrow. He wasn't just rescuing. He was studying the alien fleets, how they maneuvered, how quickly they reacted, how much hesitation lived in their command structures. Subtle edges. Hours into the operation, Threx of the Varric opened another channel. His tone had shifted from mockery to unease. You move like soldiers, not relief workers. Why answer so quickly? What profit is there for you here? Ward smiled faintly. Profit? Oh, Commander, if you think every action requires profit, you've been in politics too long. Sometimes, helping is its own reward. His words sounded noble, but the pause after carried something heavier, a quiet or warning. Foreshadow. As the human fleet expanded operations, more alien factions arrived to watch. Confusion rippled through their ranks. Why would Deathworlders expend resources for strangers? Why risk fleet assets with no guarantee of return? Ward stood at the bridge window, sipping coffee gone cold. He spoke softly, almost to himself, though his crew heard. Everyone sees the signal. Everyone hesitates. Everyone waits for someone else to bleed first. His smile was thin. So we bled first. That's how you learn what predators circle the dark. Reins shifted uncomfortably. You mean we're bait? Ward finally set the mug down with deliberate care. His gaze stayed fixed on the stars beyond, where alien fleets lingered like sharks. Bait, he said politely, is such an unflattering word. Let's call it an invitation. The lieutenant swallowed. Outside, the void was filling with eyes, curious, fearful, hungry. And the humans, smiling and polite, had just placed themselves in the center of the feast. The orbital station above J947 had once been a trade hub, now half-charred, its docking arms twisted by bombardments. Into its cracked conference chamber marched representatives of 3 alien factions, their expressions carefully groomed masks of authority. Behind them, their guards bristled with weapons and suspicion. Captain Elias Ward entered last, alone. No guards, no entourage, just him and the faint smell of coffee clinging to his uniform. He walked as though stepping into a friendly pub rather than a powder keg. Gentle beings, he said cheerfully, pulling out a chair. Glad you could spare the time from, well, whatever it is you do while people scream for help. The Varric commander, Threx, bristled, mandibles twitching. Your tone is insubordinate. Ward smiled. Tone's all I've got. The rest of me is usually busy saving lives. The argument. The Sierra delegate, a thin, insectal figure draped in silken robes, folded its hands. Captain Ward, understand, this system sits between multiple territorial claims. Any unilateral intervention destabilizes the balance. We must deliberate before. Before what? Ward interrupted, voice still mild. Before survivors starve while you argue about imaginary borders? The alien hissed softly. Such haste invites escalation. Ward leaned forward, eyes steady. Escalation already happened. That's why there's a distress beacon. Pretending it hasn't doesn't make it go away, though I admit it probably helps you sleep at night. A low ripple spread through the chamber. Some delegates avoided his gaze, others glared. The poker face. One alien, an elder of the Kalthari Union, regarded Ward with a weary calm. You play a dangerous game, human. Acting without sanction will draw enemies. Ward chuckled. Where I'm from, we call that poker night. Everyone's bluffing, everyone's glaring, and someone's always holding a pair of twos thinking they're invincible. The trick isn't avoiding enemies, it's making sure the right ones fold first. The metaphor flew over most heads. A few scribes whispered, confused. The elder Kalthari tilted his head, studying Ward as though he'd glimpsed something others had missed. The warning. Suddenly, alarms cut through the chamber. Ships were dropping from slip space at the edge of the system. Dozens, then hundreds. A hostile fleet, bristling with weapons, forming a line like drawn blades. Raines's voice crackled over Ward's earpiece. Unknown fleet identified, flag signatures of the Droken hegemony. Full combat formation. They're not here for negotiations. Ward rose smoothly, as if expecting this all along. He looked at the delegates, their faces now pale or rigid with fear. Gentle beings, he said, voice cool. Seems your debate has been interrupted. The Droken just volunteered to resolve the question of who controls this system. Threx hissed. You cannot possibly stand against them. Withdraw before they. Ward raised a hand, polite but firm. Commander, you mistake us. We didn't come to stand against them. We came to end them. The first shots. Back aboard his flagship, Ward took his chair with practiced calm. Around him, his crew's movements were swift, silent, exact. Status of the Droken? Spreading into encirclement, Raines reported. They expect us to break and run. Ward swirled the last of his cold coffee, watching the black liquid circle the cup. They always expect prey to run. That's why predators get so confused when the rabbit doesn't. He set the cup down. Deploy frigates on the flank. Carriers behind the debris field. Hold main batteries until they think we're cornered. The tactical hollow lit with shifting lines as ships moved. Alien observers on nearby vessels transmitted frantic warnings. The humans are outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched. Ward simply smiled. Banter on the bridge. Sir, Raines said carefully. Odds are 6-1. Good thing I like underdogs, Ward replied. Though technically, we're the wolves here. Wolves don't check the scoreboard. The comms officer chuckled nervously. Reminds me of that old Terran saying, don't poke the bear. Ward gave him a sidelong glance. Oh, they poked. They just don't realize yet this isn't a bear. It's something hungrier. Clash. The Droken opened fire first, lances of plasma tearing across space. Human shields flared, hulls rattled, but formations held. Then Ward's voice cut through the bridge, sharp and clear. Now. Human cannons roared, carriers released drone swarms, frigates darted through the debris field like knives in a knife fight. Alien observers gasped. The Droken expected clumsy brawling. What they saw was surgical precision. Human ships fought like predators with infinite patience, baiting, retreating, feinting, then striking the softest points with merciless efficiency. A Droken cruiser split in half under a barrage, its molten core bleeding into the void. Another vanished as drones chewed its engines apart. Shock. From the orbital station, delegates watched in horror and awe. This is not rescue work, one whispered. This is slaughter. The elder Kalthari's eyes narrowed. No. This is calculation. They came prepared. Ward's calm. On the bridge, Ward leaned forward, voice almost conversational as explosions blossomed across the hollow. Keep pressure on the left flank. Let the center push forward, they'll think they're winning. Then close it. Minutes later, the Droken fell straight into the trap. Their spearhead surged, only to find human destroyers sliding behind them, cutting off retreat. Ward's voice lowered, carrying a quiet finality. Now crush the throat. Every gun fired. The Droken center collapsed in a storm of fire. The silence. When the shooting stopped, wreckage drifted where a fleet once stood. Human losses were minimal, Droken losses were catastrophic. On every alien channel, silence reigned. Ward sipped his refilled mug. Someone had brought him fresh coffee mid-battle, as though this were routine. He set it down with a soft clink. "Well," he said, tone polite, "I do hope the survivors are grateful we answered the call. Nothing worse than sending out an SOS and having the wrong people show up, don't you think?" No one laughed. Aftermath. Threx's voice finally broke through, ragged with disbelief. That was annihilation. You tricked them into your guns." Ward tilted his head. "Tricked? Commander, we simply let them choose the fastest route to their own funeral." "Efficiency, really?" The Sirala envoy stammered. "You risked everything. No species gambles like that." Ward's smile carried no warmth. "Gamble? You think we roll dice out here?" "No, friend. Humans don't gamble with lives. We calculate. We adapt. And we don't miss." Foreshadow again. As the crew secured the battlefield, Rains leaned closer. "Sir, the other fleets are watching. They're frightened." Ward's eyes stayed on the wreckage. His voice was quiet, even gentle. "Good. Fear clarifies. They'll remember what they saw. They'll tell their governments. And the next time they hear a distress beacon, they'll wonder who else might answer first." He lifted his mug, took a slow sip, and added softly, "Let them wonder. That's the point." The battlefield hung in silence. Shattered Droken hulls drifted like rusted ornaments, sparks flickering against the cold void. Alien observers lingered in orbit, watching the aftermath with expressions that blended awe and unease. Humans were supposed to be reckless. Improvised. Crude. Yet here they were, fleet intact, enemies in ruins, survivors rescued with clinical precision. No one spoke first. It was as though the galaxy itself was waiting for permission. Alien whispers. On the station, delegates huddled in private chambers. Voices hissed over encrypted channels. "They fight like predators," one said. "They fight like they've done this before," another muttered. "No," a third corrected, fear edging every syllable. "They fight like they planned this." Ward at ease. Aboard his flagship, Captain Elias Ward strolled the bridge as though nothing unusual had happened. A fresh mug of coffee steamed in his hand. Crew worked briskly, tension under control, but his calm carried through them like a stabilizing current. He stopped near Rains's console. "Casualty report?" "Minimal, sir. 2 frigates damaged, no hull breaches. Enemy losses, total." Ward nodded once, as if confirming something he predicted hours ago. "Good. That's the kind of math I like. Human quirks." In the mess hall, Marines lounged with ration packs and jokes, ignoring the fact they just survived a battle against impossible odds. "Whole Droken armada, and what stopped them?" One soldier laughed. "A cup of captain's coffee." Another smirked. "Coffee's more dangerous than half the weapons we carry. Maybe we should bottle it for torpedoes." Alien envoys, escorted aboard for dialogue, overheard the banter and stared. To them, the levity was obscene. To the humans, it was survival, laughter sharpened against terror. Delegates confront Ward. Later, the envoys requested an audience. They found Ward leaning on the railing of the observation deck, eyes fixed on drifting wreckage. The Sirala spoke first, voice sharp. "You used this system as a battlefield. You drew the Droken in deliberately." Ward turned, expression mild. "They drew themselves in. We just happened to be ready." Threx's mandibles snapped in frustration. "No species prepares ambushes in unclaimed systems without reason. This was premeditated." Ward smiled faintly. "Commander, you make it sound like a crime to be prepared." The elder Kauthari studied him silently, then asked, "How long have you been waiting for something like this?" Ward sipped his coffee. "Long enough." Suspicion and fear. The envoys withdrew, whispering among themselves. None dared accuse humans outright, yet suspicion festered. Why did the Terrans arrive first? Why such perfect coordination? Why the efficiency of wolves among sheep? Back on the bridge, Rains watched the alien transmission scroll across her screen. They don't trust us, sir. Ward's gaze remained on the stars. Good. Trust is overrated. Fear keeps people honest. The second storm. Moments later, the sensors flared again. A second fleet dropped from subspace, larger than the Droken, bristling with heavy battleships. This was no opportunistic raid, it was an armada prepared for war. The bridge fell quiet. Crew exchanged nervous glances. Even Rains's voice wavered. Sir, that's triple our number. Ward set his mug down with deliberate care. Numbers are comforting illusions. They let people believe they've already won. That's why they're dangerous, until someone ruins the illusion. Calm before impact. The alien armada spread across the void, sleek warforms gleaming with menace. Their commander's voice thundered across channels. Deathworlders! Leave now, or be annihilated! Ward answered politely, almost warmly. Annihilation? That's an ambitious word. Tell me, did the Droken teach you how to spell it, or are you planning to invent your own definition? Static followed. The alien commander, unused to mockery, sputtered threats. Ward muted the channel and glanced at Rains. Some people just don't appreciate humor. The hidden card. As the enemy closed, Ward gave a quiet order. Signal the Horizon ships. Rains blinked. Sir? Horizon ships, he repeated calmly. For a moment, confusion rippled through the crew, then space itself shimmered. Dozens of human vessels decloaked around the system, massive silhouettes emerging from the dark like predators revealing teeth. Gasps erupted across alien frequencies. Entire fleets had gone undetected until now, hidden in the black like ghosts. Ward's tone carried no triumph, only inevitability. You think we answered the beacon out of charity? No. We amplified it. We made sure everyone heard. We wanted them to come. Alien realization. From the orbital station, the delegates watched in horror. They lured the Droken. And now this fleet. They baited them all. The elder Kalthari's voice was grim. Not bait. A trap. Humans set the board, then waited for players. Threx hissed low. They're not rescuers. They're strategists. Predators wearing smiles. Ward's command. The enemy armada shifted, hesitation visible even in formation. Ward's voice remained steady. Hold formation. Don't fire first. Let them think we're undecided. Fear is sharper when stretched thin. Minutes dragged. The alien fleet tested, probed, but never pressed. The presence of the cloaked armada shattered their confidence. Ward finally spoke, almost conversational. Open the channel again. The alien commander reappeared, bluster fraying. Ward's smile was polite, but his words cut like razors. You came here expecting prey. You found predators. Go home. Or we'll teach you the same lesson we taught the Droken. Tension breaks. The alien armada wavered, then broke. Ships peeled away, retreating one after another until only wreckage and silence remained. The galaxy had just seen something it could never unsee. Humans answering a distress call not with mercy alone, but with strategy sharp enough to turn empires. Aftermath on the bridge. Rains exhaled slowly. They ran. They actually ran. Ward reclaimed his mug, now lukewarm, and shrugged. Predators don't fight when they sense a bigger predator. It's instinct. Never blame instinct. The crew chuckled nervously, relief bleeding through. Alien perspective. In their chamber, the delegates argued in hushed tones. If they can hide fleets, what else are they hiding? They must have planned this for years. They smiled while springing the trap. The elder Kalthari finally whispered. We always thought Deathworlders survived by accident. Now we see the truth. They survive because they prepare, because they manipulate, because they never stop hunting. Closing note. Later, alone on the observation deck, Ward gazed at the stars. His reflection stared back in the glass, calm eyes, faint smile, hands steady around a mug of cooling coffee. He spoke softly, as though addressing the void itself. They called for help. We answered. That's all the galaxy needs to know. What they don't need to know, his smile sharpened, is that we were waiting. The battlefront stretched into infinity, alien warships in flames, human vessels advancing with disciplined precision. From orbit, the destruction looked like a painter's canvas torn apart by fire and void. Yet within the command deck of Resolute Dawn, silence reigned. Silence, except for the calm voice of Admiral Kian. Sector 6. Full sweep. Do not leave stragglers, he ordered, voice steady, unhurried. His officers obeyed with frightening speed, the air thick with restrained focus. Across the channel, alien commanders screamed contradictory orders. Ships collided in panic, shields misaligned, formations broken. The Deathworlder fleet had turned the battle into a calculated slaughter. Ambassador Threx of the Archean Confederacy watched in disbelief from his observation pod aboard the alien flagship. His crest feathers quivered. They fight like predators who've rehearsed every outcome. This isn't war. It's orchestration. One of his aides, a younger Archean with trembling claws, whispered, Ambassador, if they win here, nothing stops them. No species survives such relentless coordination. Threx's eyes narrowed. He thought back to the desperate distress signals sent cycles ago. Aliens had cried for salvation from raiders and collapsing borders. Humanity answered, not with words, but with fleets. He now understood the price of that answer. On the human flagship, Commander Lyra leaned toward Admiral Kian. Reports confirmed, sir. Outer sectors are collapsing. Enemy retreat routes cut. They're cornered. Kian didn't smile. He merely tapped the holomap. Cornered prey is dangerous. Give them an opening. Small enough to control, large enough to tempt. Herd them into the pocket. His officers exchanged quick, knowing glances. It was the same tactic Earth predators had used for millennia. Wolves didn't chase forever, they guided the herd into the kill zone. Moments later, alien fleets surged toward the escape corridor humans had left unguarded. It wasn't mercy. It was bait. Inside the alien flagship, panic peaked. Counselors shouted over one another. Some demanded surrender, others escape. Few still clung to defiance. We cannot outfight them, one counselor shrieked. We must yield. And offer them dominion? Another snapped. Better extinction than slavery. Ambassador Threx slammed a claw against the table. The chamber froze at the sound. His voice, though controlled, shook with conviction. You fools argue while death closes in. They did not come to enslave. They came because we called. Look around you. Do you see chains? Do you see demands? No. You see inevitability. Humanity isn't here to negotiate, they are here to end this. The chamber fell silent. Even those who despised him could not deny the truth etched in the collapsing holomap. On Resolute Dawn, Kian received new intel. The alien flagship had activated distress beacons across 5 sectors. He raised a brow. They want allies. Interesting. Commander Lyra smirked. Who would answer? They've burned half the galaxy with their arrogance. Desperation makes strange alliances, Kian replied. Mark those signals. If reinforcements arrive, we will educate them. Then, for the first time that day, his lips curved faintly upward. The next phase unfolded with surgical cruelty. Alien ships poured into the corridor, believing they had found survival. Instead, human minds bloomed like silent flowers of fire. Energy nets snapped shut. Railguns shredded hulls as if they were parchment. The slaughter was swift, merciless. On the observation deck, Threx felt his chest tighten. His aide whispered, They're not even celebrating. No cheers. No triumph. Threx's voice came low. Why would they? For predators, the hunt is not joy, it is necessity. Hours later, the battlefield lay still. Alien wreckage drifted in fractured silence. Fires smoldered across broken hulls. The last transmissions of defiance had long gone quiet. Humanity stood unchallenged. On the bridge, Kian clasped his hands behind his back. Status? Minimal losses, reported Lyra. Enemy fleets neutralized. Survivors requesting terms. Kian gave a slow nod. Terms will be simple. Lay down arms. No further aggression. Survival, in exchange for compliance. His tone carried no malice, no cruelty, just fact. It was colder than threat, heavier than rage. Later, when Threx was finally granted audience aboard Resolute Dawn, the alien ambassador approached the Admiral with unsteady composure. You could have annihilated us all, Threx said carefully. Yet you didn't. Why? Kian regarded him for a long, measured moment. His eyes, human and unblinking, held no triumph. Because extinction is wasteful. We don't want your corpses. We want a galaxy that doesn't make us answer distress calls every century. Threx bristled. Then what do you demand? Kian leaned closer, voice dropping to a near whisper. Nothing, until provoked. Pray you don't find out what provocation means. The ambassador's feathers flattened, instinct screaming at him. There was no bluff in that voice. It was the sound of a species that had made peace with violence long before they touched the stars. Back in the War Council chamber, humans prepared their final report. Kian's closing words carried across every fleet channel, each syllable deliberate. We came because you called for help. Remember that. We are not conquerors, but if forced we can be. Do not mistake restraint for weakness. Humanity does not arrive in force lightly. When we do, it is already too late for our enemies. As silence fell across the galaxy, fragments of that message echoed far beyond the ruined battlefield. Species whispered in fear. Others whispered in hope. But all understood one truth. The Deathworlders had come. And nothing would ever be the same.